Good evening, everyone. We're still working on letting some people in, we'll start fairly close to 5 o'clock. But we see you. We are here, and we're continuing to let some additional folks in before we get started. So we'll get started soon.
Hello. You can get on.
I'm in there. Start this.
Can you hear me?
What in here? I need to see what they're doing.
Turn tap on the picture.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I can hear you.
Oh, good, thanks.
We're still letting some individuals in, and we'll be getting started shortly.
All right, thank you.
Sure. That's enough juice, please.
That's your teacher?
They're gonna hear me. Not to milk.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Anthony Paternis. I am the Executive Director of Technology for Osseo Area Schools. And I have been had the pleasure of working with a great team this summer as we have been very rapidly building this Distance Learning Academy school that we're excited to share some information with you all tonight. We know that there's still a lot of questions. We hope that we can answer many of them tonight. But I will let you know that our leadership team is working very fast, and that you'll be receiving a lot of information over the course of the next week and a half as we lead up to our first day of school on September 14th. So please know, while we may not have all the answers tonight, we're getting a lot of answers soon, and we'll be getting a lot more information to all of you as we continue to move forward. Tonight's webinar is, really we want to spend a little bit of time at the beginning kind of going over some of the aspects of the Distance Learning Academy, what the school schedule will look like, what are some of the learning experiences, or what will the learning day be like for your students, to give all of you some ideas, as well as some of those burning questions that I know families have around: when will I know student schedules, when will I know my students' teachers, school supply lists, and some of those things. So we'll cover a lot of those pieces tonight, and provide you with some additional information as we go forward. So welcome. I'm excited to see all of you tonight, and it's exciting to be getting closer to the start of this school year. So just to get some logistics for this meeting, we have that the meeting will be recorded. So I do want to inform everybody that we are recording this meeting. Please mute your microphones. That is going to help with the sound, and so everyone can hear better as we continue to go through the information. And then in the right side of your meeting tonight, you'll see that there's a chat feature. And I know many of you have jumped into that chat already. We're going to use that chat box as our way for asking questions when we get into the Q&A section, question and answer section of tonight's presentation. I know we might have more questions than we have time tonight, so I want you to know that we will capture questions as they come in. So anything that we don't address tonight, we will work on building out a larger frequently asked question and question and answer response that we'll send out to families as well following this meeting. So some big things or some big overviews that I'd like to start with for our Distance Learning Academy, and I'll let each of these individuals unmute themselves for a moment. But Ryan Bisson is our elementary assistant principal. She is the administrator that is dedicated full-time to the elementary experience with our Distance Learning Academy. And I'll give Ryan a quick moment to unmute herself and just introduce yourself and say a few words.
Hi, Distance Learning Academy families. I'm so excited to welcome your scholars the week of September 14th. I've been working in elementary in Osseo area schools for the last 16 years, and I'm so excited to share this journey with you all this year.
Thank you, Ryan. And then Ben Carls is our secondary assistant principal. He is our administrator that is a dedicated full-time to our 6 through 12 families and staff as we lead through the Distance Learning Academy this year. And I'll hand it over to you, Ben, to give a quick introduction.
All right. Good evening, good afternoon, evening, families, scholars of our Distance Learning Academy. I'm really excited to work with you guys this year. This is my 18th year in the district, I think. Yeah, 18th year in the district, and I was responsible for implementing our online classes last year at Osseo Senior High as an staff development specialist. And so I look forward to working with the teachers, the scholars, families for making this experience rewarding and innovative and excellent.
So we are very excited to have Ryan and Ben on our leadership team as we move forward. While you'll see a lot of communication and see Ryan and Ben as kind of the administrative face of the Distance Learning Academy, I want to assure all of you that we actually have a large principal and leadership team, district leadership team behind them and this academy to support our staff and the instruction as we continue to move forward. But as we go through the course of the year, just want to make sure that you get to see their faces and hear them, because many of the communications that will come out regarding our Distance Learning Academy and the things that are happening with our scholars will be coming from the two of them. A couple of pieces of contact information that some of you may be aware of. So we do have an email address for the Distance Learning Academy. It's DLA@district279.org. I would like to please note that both the email and the phone number that I'll share here in a second is receiving a large volume of communication. So we are doing our best to respond back as families contact the Distance Learning Academy, but that is the main email address to contact us at. And the phone number is 763-391-8670. That is the main phone number. And as we get into the course of the school year, will be used to contact the Distance Learning Academy if you need to get a hold of teachers or staff or report attendance as well. And we'll talk a little bit about attendance tonight too. School start times. We did update the Distance Learning Academy webpage with schedules. We'll show the schedules, but K through 12 students will all follow the same start and end school time. So we'll be starting at 8:30 a.m. and we will go until 3 p.m. Specifically, we'll talk a little bit about what that means at our secondary sites in 6 through 12 for engaging with extracurriculars. We've built some uniqueness at the very end of the day that will allow flexibility for our scholars in grades 6 through 12 to engage in those extracurriculars with their home schools or athletics back at their sites as well. Because we want to be able to make sure we have as many opportunities for our students to engage with as possible. Our scholar expectations. So some things to think about as our students are preparing to be successful. So each of our young scholars will be expected to check in daily for attendance with their teacher or teachers. And we'll talk a little more about what that attendance piece looks like. We do have expectations that students will fully participate in scheduled academic classes, complete work in a timely manner, follow Osseo area schools technology expectations, and really have that dedicated area to complete schoolwork at home and tasks at home, whether that's the kitchen table or a section carved out in their room or another space within your home. Kind of find that place that is kind of that dedicated learning space for our young scholars as they're navigating the success of this school year. Attendance in the Distance Learning Academy. So, there's it varies. We're going to follow very similar to what you might expect or have experienced within your physical school when students attended on a normal basis. So schools will take daily attendance. So scholars must check in every day. And the way that they can check in is by participating in live lessons. So we'll talk about, the opportunities of the live lessons that will be present during the school year, engaging in digital activities that teachers have put together, and or turning in schoolwork. So if a teacher assigned an assignment, providing an opportunity, or when they get that assignment turned in, that will be recorded as part of their presence within the school day. If a child is unable to attend the learning for a day, parents or guardians should report the absence to the Distance Learning Academy, just like you would during a normal physical school. Call up the attendance line and report the reason for the absence. Attendance is important, and unexcused absences will follow the Hennepin County Be at Schools truancy program. So, attendance, again, will be taken daily, just as it normally would have been if you're in a physical school, and we have to follow all the same state and county rules around attendance. An unexcused day is noted if our scholar does not engage with the learning and a family has not reported the absence to the Distance Learning Academy with an excused reason. So let's look at the elementary schedule. So again, we're 8:30 to 3 o'clock, and this is it's a fairly concrete schedule. There are some of the times that may shift a little bit within grade levels. But if you notice, every morning we'll start from 8:30 to 8:50 with a morning meeting for all our students. Hold on one second while I let my dog out of the Sorry for that interruption. Didn't want the dog barking behind me. And then we'll have kind of what you'll see is 2 50-minute blocks of what we're calling live learning or small group instruction. And some of the things that we want to be very clear about is that when we have a live learning block, that doesn't necessarily mean that a student is going to engage for full 50 minutes of in front of the screen live instruction. So that might be broken up in a variety of different ways, where students will come together in a Google Meet session with all their classmates, and they might get a mini instructional lesson around math or English or social studies or science, and then they might break apart and do some independent work or some small group work, and then come back as a whole class within that live session time. So that live learning small group time will be broken up into different chunks with different activities occurring during that time. You'll notice that 11:20 to 12:20 every day is what we call our lunch and movement break. So if you think similar to our brick and mortar schools, we typically have about a 30-minute lunch for elementary, and then they have a 30-minute recess time. We've got kind of a 50-minute combined lunch and movement time. This is, a time for our students to get up and move around within the house, kind of recenter themselves as well. So it's not always full and screen in the full learning mode, to have that kind of midday break within this space. Learning will again re-engage at 12:10, in which time students will have what we're calling this independent work time. So there's these independent activities that teachers will plan out and schedule with students.
Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you. Welcome. And, you know, I'll talk a little bit more about this independent work time and what this may look like. And then at the very end of the day, from 2:40 to 3 o'clock every day, we are going to have what's called an afternoon check-in. So just like the morning meeting with our elementary students, we're going to close the day with our whole class coming back together with our elementary teacher to check out on those independent learning activities they may have been working on during the day, some of those small group activities that they may have been partnering with, or having small sessions, and kind of close that day out as a whole. You'll notice that the schedule looks fairly consistent Monday through Thursday, and Fridays is where we have a little bit more.
Can anybody hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us? Okay. On Friday, we're still going to have a morning meeting every Friday morning, and then that afternoon check-in. And the day is going to have, it's not as much geared around whole class live group mini lessons like you'll see on Monday and Thursday. You'll see more small group check-ins where a classroom teacher might bring a small group of students together at different periods throughout the day. They'll have some time if they're potentially working with an interventionist, special ed services might bring a small.
Can anybody hear me? I can't hear the sound.
We can definitely hear you. Hopefully she looks at the chat box.
Try going out and coming back in.
Oh,
All right. And so as I was sharing on Friday, they'll have the morning meeting with the whole class. They'll have the afternoon check-in at the very end of the day with the whole class. And then throughout the day, we'll be broken up into
what
different.
three dots do I have to press? Oh,
The rest of the Friday will be broken up into small groups, interventions, and independent directed activities. So it's Fridays is a little bit more flexibility based within that time.
I can't hear anybody.
Respectfully, could you mute her, please, since there is another session?
Anthony, do you want to address any of the questions that are coming up in the chat about the elementary schedule and the amount of screen time they're expected to have and the ability to be flexible with when they do assignments?
So I'm going to go through the secondary schedule first, and then I'm going to address both of those at the same time, because I think there's some similarities with secondary that can help with the screen time and flexibility. And then we'll add a little more flexibility. I'll add some specific responses to elementary as well. Our secondary schedule is running on what in education terminology we refer to as kind of a block schedule. So there are school districts that run schedules very much like this. Our high school students, if you have a high schooler with us, you know many of our high schools run on what's called a modified block schedule, where they have some longer periods of time. So all of our day is blocked into 80-minute chunks. What you'll see on Monday through Thursday, again, follows a fairly similar schedule. On Friday is a little more independent and looks a little different than our Monday through Thursday schedule. And we'll talk about that in a second here. So on Mondays, or first, every single day, from 8:30 to 8:50, students would have an advisory, 6 through 12. So they will meet with their advisory teacher all year long in that advisory class at the morning as a whole group. At the end of the day, block 4 is what we're calling the asynchronous learning period. And during this time, students will engage in digital assignments and digital activities that teachers will post within Schoology that they're going to engage with and check in on. It is their time that they will connect in to the 3 class periods that they don't have live synchronous learning opportunities with. So if you notice, blocks 1, 2, and 3 are all organized around what we're calling synchronous learning. So during those class blocks where there's synchronous learning, there will be some form of live instruction happening within that 80 minutes. Now, by no means will a teacher have a Google Meetup for 80 minutes and a student is listening to a live lesson for that long. Teachers are planning around a lot of different activities and chunking that 80-minute period up. So they might start that class period with a 15, 20-minute mini science lesson. Well, they'll have the whole class in, give a lesson on that. Then they'll break that up, ask students to go do some independent work or some independent practice, potentially have students break into small groups of students to work on an activity, and then circle back and come back for the last 5-10 minutes of that 80-minute block to check back in as a whole class. So that's an idea of what that 80-minute time frame might be chunked up as. Now, I know we've got some questions about how much time is going to happen within that live lesson, screen time, and flexibility within the schedule. So as we think about the instruction and the live synchronous instruction, teachers will be what we're calling live mini lessons. And during these times, those mini lessons will be recorded. And they'll take and post those mini lessons back into Schoology or Seesaw at the elementary level. So if there is a student for whatever reason that can't participate or engage during that live lesson time, they will be able to go back and access that live synchronous learning that occurred during that scheduled time. The remaining times, as we call independent asynchronous instruction, and this is where there's a lot of flexibility in that time and what that looks like. So in particular, the reason why we have that 4th block of the school day at secondary as an asynchronous time period is we know that we've got scholars that want to participate in extracurriculars or athletics. And because our school day goes longer than the traditional high school and middle school, that is an opportunity where students can go and participate in those activities. And if they need to check back in and do some of that independent or asynchronous learning at a different point in time, they can come back and do that. That offers that flexibility within that schedule. During those independent or asynchronous instructional activities, students might engage in digital activities that a teacher might design, whether that's a digital discussion board. Teachers might post some kind of digital assignment. They might have other digital activities like IXL is a program some of you may be familiar with, or DLA, which is another program that we use in the district for reading and reading comprehension. So there's some of those other digital resources that the classroom teacher may direct students to during that independent time. Teachers may have pre-recorded videos, so they might pre-record some mini lessons or some content for students to engage with and watch. There might also be, a variety of other independent non-screen related activities. So independent reading an article, doing problems out of a textbook. So we'll talk about materials and texts as well. Or other independent, as I said, non-tech activities. So I'll talk a little bit about curriculum materials that we're going to get to families. But teachers are really looking at a combination of things as they're thinking about this instruction, about a balance of, again, how much time students are on screens versus not on screens, age and developmental appropriateness, and looking at how to chunk things up and also build in movement. I saw some comments in there, questions around movement breaks. So teachers are thinking and planning around, even in an 80-minute block at secondary or a 50-minute block within the elementary level, how do they break that up, and time in a goal noodle session, or have students stand up and stretch, walk around the house, and then come back. So those are things that our classroom teachers, as they're designing lessons within that time space, are planning and preparing for as we continue to move forward. Ben, are there some other specific questions within the chat that I may not have touched on yet?
I think you got most of it, that it's not entirely all screen time all the time, that there is the flexibility piece. If you are unable to attend a lesson at the same time as it's being live delivered, it will be recorded. And so it can work with that flexibility of family needs and sibling care, just when it's most appropriate for your scholar to engage with the learning. There just are certain times that during the contract day, your teacher's available to help and provide support and answer questions.
Thanks, Ben. I saw a couple questions come in about talent and gifted, so TAG, orchestra, music, specifically at elementary. So our band and orchestra, 5th grade, those are continued. They're going to continue to be offered. Talented and gifted, intervention, special ed at the elementary level will all continue to be offered. So when you saw that elementary schedule and you see some of that small group and that independent time, that's when we might have small groups for TAG. There might be small groups in there for intervention. There might be small groups in there for special education. Our special education teachers will also be, as they always have in our brick and mortar setting, partnering with our instructional teachers for special ed students who are in the general ed classroom, and building those accommodations and supporting those students within the classroom. At the middle school with orchestra, yes, band, choir, orchestra will be offered at all levels. That will be, we have enough students that we will be running all of those as well. I see some questions come up on elementary class size and class size. And there's a few more questions coming in related to what's going to be offered. I will get to that later in the presentation. So hold on to those. If I miss something, we'll come back to them. Live lessons. So just some things that, we want to reinforce within live sessions. When your students are participating, so again, scholars will participate in a virtual session during the school day. It is important that our scholars remember and think about, virtual setting seems a little different, but think about it as being if you were in the physical classroom. So make sure that you're dressed appropriate for live classes, understand your surroundings around where your video may be visible if you have your video turned on. And again, just have that dedicated work area for students as their place to be able to go and know that this is when it's school time and I engage with it. We know that for our younger scholars, parents may help them set up for the day. However, it is important that the child takes ownership of their learning for the day. We're really trying to, work with building a lot of routines and relationships and, getting students to think of this is a virtual environment, but, building in how do we connect as a classroom and support you from the teacher as a classroom, and really, put it in a space that for parents, your role is really to create that supportive environment and that dedicated space for a student and our young scholars to be able to engage with the learning as the teacher is directing and providing it. So some things very specific to DLA for whether you're in kindergarten or all the way up to 12th grade. So curricular material distribution will occur later in September. So we did mention this a little bit. We're working on what are the resources needed at elementary for each grade level. So we are putting, for lack of a better term, grade level kits together. So a first grade kit, a second grade kit of Bridges math materials, balanced literacy materials, and other items that they may need. And so we will provide more communication when we're going to distribute those materials out. At the secondary level, we know at the beginning of each trimester, there might be some specific course materials that are going to need to get out. So again, we're working on curating those. So whether it's textbooks, if it's a art class, if there's specific art materials that we need to provide, and like an art kit, or some of those other specifics to make sure that our students are successful with the additional materials and resources that they need. Technology pickup. So you should have received communication from your home school, and that would have went out last week, because technology pickup was today and yesterday, so September 1st and 2nd. If for some reason you missed the technology pickup, we will be communicating out additional opportunities next week to get your device picked up, as well as ongoing. If for some reason there's a scheduling conflict next week, we will work with families if you find a challenge based on the opportunities that present themselves. So more communication will be coming related to that if you haven't gotten your device yet. Class ratios, did see some questions related to that. So I want you to know our class sizes are very comparable, if not slightly smaller than what they are in the physical classroom. So at the secondary sites, we run an average of about 33 students to a classroom. At the elementary, it varies by grade level, but from the low to the mid-20s as we grow larger at the elementary level. So you can expect that your child is in a classroom size that would be comparable to what they would see within a physical classroom. Scholars still have access to and can participate in their home school extracurriculars. So I did mention this earlier. Home schools, for all intents and purposes, this is the Distance Learning Academy is your child's school and their primary school for the school year. But when very unique things around extracurriculars and some of those pieces with your home school come up, your home school will be sending out communication related to those opportunities as well, and you are able to participate in those activities. Some additional specifics: technology support will be provided through the Distance Learning Academy. We're pulling together our Distance Learning Academy tech support team, so we will have a dedicated team, and we'll be communicating out what that process is for families and students to engage with that tech team if they need assistance and troubleshooting. Scholars in the DLA will still participate in district-wide state assessments and district assessments. So at the elementary level, we've got progress monitoring assessments. At the middle school level, we have screening assessments that we run as a district, so students will still participate in those. The state assessments, the Minnesota Comprehensive Assessments in the spring, if they still run. Last year, the state canceled them due to the events that were going on, but if the assessments will still run in the spring, our students will still participate in those state assessments as well. Again, all course content and materials for learning will be the same as at physical sites, and as we talked about with some of the curriculum distribution that we'll be doing later in September, that's how we will get those materials to our students to be successful. School conferences, we will still continue to have school conferences just like at a physical site. We're working on building that conference schedule, but you can expect they will be at similar times in the year as what you experienced at your home school. The uniqueness is these conferences will occur virtually, so we'll run conference scheduling like many of your home schools have and set up times to schedule times with teachers on those specified conference days. More information will come related to those. I will pause for a second on these DLA specifics before we get into elementary specifics and secondary specifics. So Ben or Ryan, are there any big questions that you're seeing in there in that chat box?
Some of the big questions are just if a scholar does not log into the live session but completes the work and watches the recording and does the work of the day, whether on Seesaw or on Schoology, will that count for their attendance? There's a lot of attendance questions based on that with the flexibility piece, and a lot of questions specifically at the middle school level about those scholars who were planning to take Spanish or in the middle school or band and orchestra, when will they know about that? And I can tell you that we spent the last few days working on schedules, and we are still working on schedules, and we're finalizing some of those details because we're not going to be operating under a middle school model, but more like the junior high model we had on a 6-period day. That will have us have some conversations about what course your family will want to choose if we have to make a choice. So you can expect to be hearing from counselors about that if there is a conflict. But we do have some classes I know came up about math classes for the advanced kids. And we do have some sections of nonlinear and geometry for middle school scholars that they'll be taking with high school teachers. So the same curriculum as the high school students, but they'll be in a class with middle school scholars.
Yeah, so all of the advanced courses at middle school in terms of math, Spanish as well. That's our other one that we've got a lot of advanced scholars in at the middle school level. Those are all running. As Ben mentioned, as we're mapping through this, we know if your child is currently requested to be in music or a music, so band, orchestra, or choir, and a language class, so Spanish. I don't believe we have any French students. We will be getting. Can you still hear me?
Yes, but you froze for about 15, 20 seconds.
Okay. So I was saying at the middle school level, all our advanced math classes are going to continue to run. All our language classes are running. Band, choir, orchestra are all running. As Ben mentioned, for families that are, or students that are currently taking a language and band, choir, or orchestra, we'll be getting in touch with you around how the scheduling conflicts that might occur. We do have, and I did see a question in there, dedicated counseling staff. So there are counselors K through 12. So again, I want to reiterate, this Distance Learning Academy is being staffed just like a physical school. So we have counselors at the elementary, counselors at middle, and counselors at the high school level. Schedules will go into student view, and I'll talk about those in a second when we get into secondary specific pieces as well. Some elementary specifics, and I'll go through it and then I'll let Ryan add any additional details on here. But virtual open house, we have scheduled for Thursday, September 10th. Additional communication will be coming out regarding this. School supply lists are about finalized. So our grade level teams have been working on school supply lists, and we will be getting those communicated out as well as posted on the Distance Learning Academy website. Teacher assignments. So we anticipate by September 9th that our elementary teacher assignments will be posted and available. And then Seesaw, again, I want to remind families, Seesaw is the primary digital classroom tool. So that is the tool that our classroom teachers will be using at the elementary level to create those digital, their digital classroom space and organize what the digital classroom looks like, and posting the assignments and posting links to get into the virtual sessions as well. Ryan, do you have anything to add specifically to elementary as they've been working away?
Yeah, I see a couple of questions in the chat about being able to go back to maybe I'll call it the lesson plan that the teacher shares out for the day. Absolutely. We're guiding our teachers to share out a week-long plan as well as a daily plan, so we can really support families more with a flexibility and planning for the week of how they can support their scholar at home.
Thank you. I've seen a couple questions come in around the flexibility in there with the live, attending the live session. So attendance is that a student needs to engage with their digital class and their digital classroom at some point during the day. So not engaging in that live lesson is not going to mark them as absent, but they do need to connect and engage in that digital space, whether it's going in and watching that mini lesson or turning in the assignments and the activities that were done during the class day before the end of that day to get marked as present for that day. Hey, Ben, do you see any other, or Ryan, see any other questions in there specific to elementary before we get to the secondary specifics?
Yes, I do see a couple of questions about Seesaw. In regards to exploring other digital tools, we as a system decided to be consistent with Seesaw for a lot of reasons, but the main reason was not just consistency, but the ability for all of our K-5 scholars to be authentic with their evidence of learning. Opportunities within Seesaw embedded are videos, recordings, lots of kind of whiteboard activities. Last spring, we added that as a tool during our pandemic lockdown. We are engaging not only DLA staff, but all of our ISD 279 staff in hours of Seesaw training and how to incorporate our core curricular materials into Seesaw. So what you experienced last year, I know will feel very different as you begin to engage with the DLA teachers as they engage with your scholars. That I'm very confident in.
Ryan, quickly, school supply lists. I think we'll have them available tomorrow. Is that accurate to say?
Yes, that is accurate. I just have to compile the list, do one final edit, and they will be on the website tomorrow.
Awesome. Okay, let's jump into secondary. Secondary specifics. So fall student learning conferences. So this is when you and your students will check in.
Hey, there's one question that came up that is specific to elementary. So Julie, you'd asked about, will we be trying to keep kids with teachers and students from their home schools as possible as available? At the elementary level, we are going to try our best to cluster them with their elementary sites. We may have classes made up of different combinations of kids from different sites, but we want to keep them with, for instance, like Elm Creek kids with Elm Creek kids as much as possible because they have those relationships and they have that social emotional support of each other as much as possible. We cannot guarantee that it will just be an exclusively one elementary home site class because some sites have a lot of scholars, some sites have fewer. At the secondary level, it's based on what class you're taking, so you're not going to necessarily be with just classmates from your site. That might be the case with some electives that were more specific to a site, but for the most part, at the secondary level, you're going to be with scholars from all over the district.
Yeah, and in terms of the teachers with that, teachers are not necessarily paired with students from their school. We have elementary teachers coming from every single one of our elementary sites to teach within the Distance Learning Academy. So our primary focus has been, as Ben had said, to really try and group, or as we were saying, cluster groups of students from the same home school together so that some of those pre-existing connections and relationships are there, as well as we think about, when students go back to the physical school next school year, that helps them to build some of those relationships that they can take with them as they continue their school career at their elementary schools. So secondary, secondary, we don't have open houses per se. We have what we call fall student learning conferences. Those will be occurring September 16th from 4 to 7. Additional communication will be coming to our families regarding the specifics of that fall learning conference. School supply lists, I know we're still working on if there are some specifics for our secondary beyond just the traditional, make sure you have notebooks and folders and pencils and stuff to do some of the work. So we are working on those as well. School class schedules for 6 through 12. We anticipate to have those ready to go and in parent view again by September 10th. So the day after elementary, we anticipate having elementary released. So we're working to get these as soon as we can. The challenge that we have, as you can probably anticipate, we have 5,000 students that are enrolling in this brand new school. We've got to take all of their schedule requests from their schools that they originally had, and we need to now map them out for all our course offerings, get those put together. And then all the 230 teachers that we have, we need to get them mapped to the right classes to teach and be successful. So that's a lot of the background work that's happening right now to make sure that we can really deliver those schedules by the date that we're saying. In terms of classes that are being offered, because I know that's a lot of questions that families have had since they've even started signing up. At the middle school level, we are running our exploratory classes. We are running music, orchestra, band. We are running, art, facts, tech ed, project lead the way. All of those courses at the middle school are still running. We're working through that schedule and what that looks like. It is going to be slightly different than what you saw at if you were at the traditional middle school. We are not running a teaming model that you may be familiar with at the middle school. It's more of a junior high style model. Quite frankly, our physical middle schools are also moving away from the teaming model this year just because of the changes with staffing and being able to run everything effectively. Our exploratories are going to run slightly different. So I know many of the exploratories kind of ran all year long in a rotating basis. Our exploratories are going to be grouped more in a trimester class style and rotating from one exploratory to a different exploratory each trimester. So that is how that is going to change. The secondary at the high school level, I saw a question there about concurrent enrollment. We are not offering any concurrent enrollment classes because Distance Learning Academy does not have a partnership with any college or university to be able to offer those. So that's one of the things that we can't offer. But many of our AP courses are still not being offered. Almost all of our HP courses are still being offered. And a large portion of our elective courses are still continuing to be offered. The amazing thing of having the volume of students that we have within the Distance Learning Academy is it has created a great opportunity for us to really provide a lot of those advanced and elective course offerings that if we had a smaller group of students, we would be more limited. So while there may be some things that families aren't or students aren't going to get as they had wanted, we are at least happy that we can offer a larger variety than what we had initially anticipated as we were putting these pieces together. Ben, are you seeing any questions specific to secondary that we're missing?
I've seen some questions just if they signed up for a course that's not offered, for instance, concurrent, will they be put into regular or AP? Will they be given the choice for that? Some questions about what is the attendance day. So if like they haven't logged in by 8 o'clock, for instance, will that count as not showing up if they get stuff done after 8 o'clock? Or when do we take care of that? The difference between distance learning and the hybrid model, or if the school district as a whole that's not doing DLA has to shift to distance. I will say to that, this is exclusively online teaching and learning that is planned to be this way entirely. And so it's going to be very much more innovative, intentional about digital activities and collaboration. And the hybrid model, we're going to be following the same standards. The standards don't change whether we're in the Distance Learning Academy or in the hybrid, but how it gets delivered is going to be different because this is a different type of school. Other questions that have come up, just like the school calendar, we follow the same school calendar. So we would end the trimester as it is. Parents were told that there's questions about, oh, wait, we can get out of it after a trimester. That's come up a few times. Okay. So, and then just questions such as like, are teachers staying in their grade and subject? We are trying to keep teachers with what they have. Scholars didn't tally enough for some classes, so we have to be flexible there. But all our teachers are licensed in the area that they're teaching. And there is a question about, can people email me or Ryan directly? We would ask you to email DLA at district.
Are you still there, Ben? I think we lost Ben. What Ben was saying, we lost you there for a second, Ben. Where you were ending is please email if you've got questions, DLA at district279.org.
Yes. And DLA means that you won't go to your school, like the physical school. You stay, you used to work from home, and this is your school for the year. Yes.
All right. Saw a few questions in there about ACT testing, in particular with seniors. We are working through ACT testing because all seniors do have the ability to take the ACT this fall. We're processing through what the logistics are because the district date for ACT testing has been published. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but we need to work through what that plan and process will look like for DLA students who want to participate. So more information will be coming with that as I'm working with our district assessment coordinator and making sure we have a space for students who want to engage with that as well. A question in here around DLA being canceled for snow or weather days. Osceola Schools actually has an e-learning plan in place. So when there is an inclement weather day, we actually do online learning across the district and we don't close. Last year was our first year doing that. We only did that in grades 6 through 12. This year it's actually a K through 12 plan. So learning would continue on an inclement weather day, which you'll probably see on the announcement that would come from the school if there was a snow day, because the rest of the district is participating in hybrid or in-person learning. How it will be posted is that if physical schools are closed, students will participate in an e-learning day. And really for our scholars in the Distance Learning Academy, you will just continue following school as you normally would on a weather closure day because you're in that digital learning format all the time. Parent and family toolkit. So I'm going to let Ryan jump in. As a district team, we've been putting together resources for parents as we talk about Seesaw and Schoology and some of the other digital tools that are out there. We have a resource that has been created for families to access to provide some additional supports at home. And Ryan, just let me know when you want me to click each slide, if you can kind of talk through a little bit about the Parent and Family Toolkit.
Yeah, go ahead to the next slide. Thank you, Anthony. So I only have one slide because I'm hoping that you will find yourself there. Before this role, I was the elementary curriculum coordinator. So this was my project this summer, along with the secondary curriculum coordinator and our teams. And we have been working hard all summer in creating a 24-hour-a-day support for all of our scholars and their parents and families, because we recognize the importance of the partnership as we engage in the upcoming school year, especially at the Distance Learning Academy. So what you're going to find on restart.district279.org is a link to this Parent and Family Toolkit. It is in 3 sections. The first section, you will find elementary grades pre-K through 5. Their parents are going to find quick links so that they can understand more about at-home learning for Bridges in Mathematics, which is our core math curriculum. They will also find supports for vocabulary, our word. You're also going to find links to social and emotional support, videos and webinars from our second step social and emotional curriculum to help you at home with your learner, as well as core tools that your scholar will engage with. guidance on how to log in, videos on how you can support your learner with that tool. And it also comes in multiple languages. In secondary, you're going to find resources for a daily schedule. How can you support your secondary student with setting them up for success at home? A virtual calming room as a brain break. Many other resources specific to content areas at the secondary level. And then finally, our technology tool page, similar to how I described the elementary core tool page. In ISD 279, we do have core tools such as G Suite, Seesaw, Schoology. And so what we have curated for all of our parents and families are, again, guidance and what is this tool? How can I use it? Links to supports for any kind of help that you might need. So we are very excited to share out this new tool. And if anything, jump in and get started, and you can practice with your own scholar at home or just start engaging yourself in preparation for September 14th.
Thank you, Ryan. And we've kind of been going through some questions and answers the whole time, but for the last 5 minutes of time here, we'll kind of open it up for additional questions that are out there. I did see one question come by around using home technology or a child's personal tablet. While that is okay to engage with the digital learning, we strongly encourage our students to use the district issued device because we can provide technical support on that, and we preload different district applications for learning, as well as in particular at the secondary level, specific extensions for students to be successful in the learning. As well as we run some pretty robust filtering on those as well to keep our young scholars safe on their while they're engaging online with the learning as well. I see a few questions in here around students being able to take driver's ed classes online. I would assume so. That program is run through community education, so you'd have to reach out to them. I know that that is offered later in the afternoon, and I do know that they at least in the spring, ran it in an online format. I don't know how they're offering that at this time. Ben and Ryan, are you seeing any additional questions coming in that I'm missing? Lunch, meal.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to jump in on lunch meal distribution. So we will be providing more information specific to meal distribution. So all families in Distance Learning Academy do have access to the lunch services with our district. I know the Food and Nutrition Service is mapping out a plan that they will be able to communicate out shortly around what that will look like. There's going to be, from my understanding, a combination of site pickup, where you can go to your home school and pick up a lunch, or a combination of food delivery like we did last school year, where we'll potentially deliver 5 days worth of meals to your home one day during the week. Additional information will be coming. I see a question in here related to IEPs at middle school.
So the questions that are coming, we don't have an answer for that yet. We can always go back and change a attendance marking if the scholar engaged in the course after a teacher had marked maths, just like we would with a physical school. There's a question about IB classes, about whether there'll be whether we will have IB classes, and then also driver's ed.
Yep, so you might have cut out, Ben. I did mention the driver's ed. Again, that runs through community ed. So you'll have to connect with community ed regarding what that looks like. IB courses, unfortunately, we are not able to offer or run any IB courses. I know that's very particular to our Park Center families. We are exploring some potential opportunities for some of our seniors who are working on the IB diploma. to still be able to engage in some other pathways with IB curriculum to still earn that. So if you have a senior who is an IB scholar working on their IB diploma, we will be getting in touch with you to look at what those opportunities might be looking like. But the majority of IB in general is not being offered through the Distance Learning Academy.
And then questions about special ed. We are working diligently to connect our special ed teachers and case managers with the scholars who are receiving services and will receive services. There's a question about whether we can keep them with this if they have a special ed caseworker who is doing DLA from their site, whether we can keep them connected like that. And then questions about just the ACTs. And a lot of this questions about secondary testing, I can tell you, like ACT wise, we'll find out as we go, and we will stay in communication about that information, because we know that the ACT, especially for seniors in October, is a crucial test that they missed out on, that we want to make sure they have the opportunity to take. And tech, if your Chromebook is not working or if your iPad isn't working, they want to know what to do about that, because they picked it up but it's not working. Okay, so if you picked it up and for whatever reason it's not working, for right now, the easiest way is to send an email to help, HELP, at district279.org, and that will go through our centralized help desk ticketing system and get assigned to the instructional technology team. And so they will follow back up with that as well. As we get our dedicated team at DLA up and going, we will add additional processes around tech support for during the school year as well. I see a question here related to assessments for new TAG students to take place. Yes, we will have an assessment opportunity for gifted and talented students at the elementary. So district-wide, we use an assessment called the Colgat. I believe that's administered to all third graders. Ryan, please correct me if I'm wrong.
You are correct.
All right. We will be administering that to all third graders as well for tag placements, just like we would at a physical site. This question right here, will the school year be extended since the start of the late start to the school year? I do not have a good answer for that on yet. My understanding right now is it is not being extended. Again, that is a school board decision. So they did not make any calendar modifications to extend the school year when they voted for the September 14th start. And any school year extension that would apply to physical schools would apply to Distance Learning Academy. That is a district-wide process, not specific to the Distance Learning Academy. Ben, are you seeing other questions? You're muted, Ben. Sorry, Janelle, I wanted to let you know I do see your question about our staff representing our student body and the range of experiences and lived truths we have. We have staff that come from all over our district, and some are here with excitement and choice, and some are here for necessity. We are hiring teachers, and that is a moral imperative to make sure that we are hiring teachers who do represent the various lived experiences of our scholars. So that is on our mind, and we have engaged already this week in some wonderful deep equity work to unpack some of the concerns that our scholars are facing, our teachers are facing, and our community is facing. Yes, and along those lines, I can share we've had a lot of conversation with DLA that in particular for our first week of school, first 2 weeks of school, to that it's imperative that our teachers are engaging in social emotional learning, building community and building relationships, because this is a new learning experience. Students are engaging in a very different way, and there is much need around building interpersonal relationships and relationships in community with all of our students and our teachers to be successful for the school year, as well as to process through a lot of the challenges that our communities and scholars have faced as we continue to set all of ourselves up for success as we continue to move forward. Well, is there one more question in there you see, Ryan?
I saw a question about open house. So open house, we are working through communication. Hopefully that will also go out tomorrow with school supply lists. The vision is next Thursday night from 4 to 7 with some rotation opportunities for families to meet up in a Google Meet with their teacher and learn more about their grade level. That again is elementary specific. I also saw some questions about homework. More information to come. Homework in the elementary level is, developmentally appropriate, the amount of time, and really what the task is, and what is necessary for that student to engage in their learning. I see a question about the toolkit. It is live. It is on restart.district279.org right now.
Awesome. And I've seen a few questions in about students transitioning in and out of Distance Learning Academy. Again, we will have some additional communication around that process, in particular for students in the Distance Learning Academy who may find they need a different transition at a different, to go back to physical site during the school year. As always, we work with our scholars, even in the physical setting, to make sure that we have that everyone is in the best school environment to be successful. But in a kind of an overview summary, there will be an application process if you are looking to transition from the Distance Learning Academy back to a homeschool. That will occur prior to the start of the next trimester. There are no guarantees to move back into that physical site because it's all dependent on teacher availability, space, and safety. We have to, if we're in a hybrid model, we have to ensure that we have 50% capacity, we have bus capacity, and we also have to make sure that we have the teachers for students to go into classrooms. So those will all be part of the consideration and the evaluation before any student moves in or moves out of the Distance Learning Academy. Students moving or requesting to come into the Distance Learning Academy, again, we'll work with the families. It has to be based on a family health need or concern to have an accommodation to come into the Distance Learning Academy. And again, we'll have to work with the students who are looking to make that request to ensure that we have the space and capacity in the classroom opportunity for the student to be successful. We don't want to move students to either of our learning locations and not create a safe and a conducive learning experience or environment for the scholar to be successful. And with that, I really appreciate everybody's time tonight and engaging with us. We will be capturing this chat, so if there's any questions that we happen to miss, we'll kind of build a FAQ or a Q&A document out that we can share back with families. Again, we recorded this. We will get this posted so that if you know other family members or community members that wanted to re-engage with this, that you'll be open to it. As well as if you wanted to come back and see some specific pieces, you'll be welcome and able to. So we look forward to this school year, and we look forward to engaging all of you and your young scholars for the school year. It's going to be a great year. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.